Hi guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how Lasengal can fix the quick system. So I've heard a lot of opinions on this over time. I myself have talked about this for years now. I have waited to make a video on this mostly because I've been waiting on the devs to fix it. And over time, I've seen them make some strides. In fact, as of last anniversary, we pretty much got the word from Mr. 2 that that is one of their focuses for this year. Sadly, I'm going to say they've done some things well and other things not. So we're going to talk about that. On screen right now, you guys can actually see basically the breakdown of the quick arts and buster cards and sort of what they do, both where you use them in a sequence, either first, second, or third, how much damage they'll do, how much NP gain they'll do, how much stars they'll generate based off of that. Now, this chart might be a little bit confusing to you. Again, for instance, you might look at this and say, oh, arts cannot generate a star. It has no star gen rate. That's not true. It absolutely can. Similarly, you might be able to sit here and say, oh, Buster cannot generate any Noble Phantasm. That's also not true. If the circumstances are right, if you lead with the correct cards, and if you maybe have the right buffs on, you can make a lot of the stuff happen still. Don't worry about that. The big thing I want to focus on is primarily one of my issues overall with where the quick card sits. As you guys look at this, the quick card is pretty much by far just the least damage, and that is one of the issues I've had with it from the very beginning. I think as you look at this, one of my issues predominantly is that arts cards generate up to 3 times more Noble Phantasm. That is a huge issue for me. You basically look at the NP gen rate there of quick and the NP gen rate of arts, and you're just going like, what the heck is happening? I think when you look at this from a top-down perspective, you see the arts card dealing middling damage here, okay? So not the least damage, not the most, but having by far the most NP gen. And where I think they messed up is conceptually at the very beginning of the game. I think, to me, the arts card should have done the least damage. That should have been the trade-off for generating Noble Phantasm. And then if you actually flip-flop quick and arts, if basically the damage flips out here, then what you have with quick is you have this hybrid card that doesn't deal as much damage as Buster, does more damage than arts, but doesn't generate as much Noble Phantasm as arts. And the benefit that it gets is that it generates stars. Now, back in year 1, this would have sounded insane a little bit. But what we started to see over time here is craft essences like Fragment of 2030, Mystic Codes having star bombs on them, and now just blatant star bomb added skills with either stars per turn like in Himiko's case, or in like stars being on the actual supports kit in the case of, again, both Oberon and Koyanskaya. We've started to see the invalidation of stars as a gimmick with regards to quick. This doesn't mean that there aren't going to be skills out there that use stars. We've seen that over time, and I think we'll still see more into the future. But it does mean that basically every other card type has some solution to getting stars. So they don't actually need this benefit of having good star gen. And that becomes really weird. Certainly, you know, it's better to have it than to not. But I think the problem is it's so easy to remedy and it's so readily available for a lot of other card types that basically the quick system just finds this to not be an advantage anymore. Its actual advantage has been totally stolen from it. So as a result, it just kind of sits here and is this poor star. Well, sorry, I'm not gonna say poor star generator. It's the best star generator, but it is one where, again, I think, hey, yeah, that is its supposed benefit that has basically been stolen by the other kits. And as a result, it's penalized by having the worst damage and the, I'd say, the middle of the road in P gain. So that's something that is worrisome for me over time. Now, I want to be clear here because I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to be thinking, well, but Cad, they've addressed this already on JP. And you would be right, at least to an extent, they have addressed it by virtue of the new quick chain, making stars lead in with even more crit chance, which is, again, really, really nice. Sorry, quick cards lead in with even more crit chance. And then we've also seen the mighty chain sort of reviving quick, making sure that you try to pick quick so that you get the benefit of each and every starting card bonus being applied to your chain. So again, that's stars generated, but that's also NP gain and damage that you're getting. So in a mighty chain, the first card is every single card type bonus. So it's really, really nice and definitely helps revive quick. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass with regards to where the quick card sits currently. In that regard, I'm going to say the overall carding performance is fine with the changes they've made. So I do want to be clear, while I do see there still being issues, I think these issues have largely been addressed by the changes they've made. So where do I have issue then? I think the issue predominantly comes down to our supports then at this point. And as we look at this over time, we've started to see that, yeah, they're kind of getting stuck in their ways a little bit. For a long time, I think, and this has been no secret to me, but certainly maybe to other people out there, where we've started to see people basically notice the relative scale down of certain quick units. They've started to relinquish this over time. We started to see quick units being designed better, but for a long period of time, especially right near Scotty's release and right afterwards, we started to see almost this fear of quick units with how they were designing units that were naturally somewhat gimped in either refund or damage to make it so that they didn't have another Lancelot Berserker, another Dantes on their hands. And again, I'm not really sure why. It's this concept of a potential quick boogeyman existing out there into the distance somewhere that only Lasengel could see, only the devs knew about, and as a result, it didn't make any sense to us why they were designing units this way. Why did units need to be weakened if they were quick? Because to a lot of people, quick was already the weakest card type. Now, again, I've said this time and time again to people that you should definitely build all the systems in FGO. You should try to have a good setup for arts, buster, or quick, just depending on what the node or challenge quest calls for. And I think that's a good idea still in general. So even if you're not very bullish on how you see quick performing over time, I'd still say it's a good idea to at least have the capability of setting up a quick system to do it. The problem is, when we start to look at Scotty here, it's not really the issue that she has a really nice card type up with quick crit damage. In fact, I think that's lending itself more to quick strengths with having naturally high star gen. I think the bigger issue that we have comes with her third skill here, which is that it is a locked 50% block 50, as I like to call it, charge. So this means that this can only be targeted on one unit, and that is in and of itself a little bit of an issue. This naturally causes issues not just with it lacks the ability to allow for multi DPS setups. So again, any sort of system in which you have a singular damage dealer and then a second damage dealer alongside your support, okay? Because the problem with this is Scotty's buffs, because they're targeted and not party wide, are only going to one of those units in effect. So she has to make a hard choice, and as a result, the better system instead ends up being multi support with a single damage dealer. That's perfectly fine. The problem with this is, over time, this is a very rigid system. It's very easy to build as long as you have access to a Scotty banner, but it's become very annoying, I would say, for dealing with sort of odd node structure content. So 90 plus content has a very difficult time adapting as quick because of the block 50 charge. Now, further down the line, we end up getting Summer Shisho. This is a relatively new addition to JP, and I think she is a good addition. I watched as people, when she first came out, said that she was just Scotty light, or that she basically didn't change much. And I still think she largely does. As you guys saw there, Scotty gives quick crit up. Summer Scotty gives buster crit up while still giving a quick steroid. So what you end up having by having both of them is you now have coverage of two different card types, both of which have very strong crit damage modifiers. On top of that, the second skill for Summer Scotty is a little bit more party and farming friendly, as again, instead of having a defense down for one wave, basically, you now have an attack up that gets carried throughout the waves on your units. So really, really nice what they did here with her. But ultimately, I'm gonna say where they fall short again is basically with the third skill. So while you have more coverage in order to be able to crit on both your buster and your quick cards, that opens the door to being able to crit down one of the annoying waves. So if you have a single enemy wave in a 3-turn structured node, all of a sudden you might have the cards on the right turn to be able to crit it down. The problem with this approach is it relies on cards, which as of this current moment are still RNG. So that is something that I think a lot of people try to mitigate. They just try to go with the sure thing. They try to avoid it. So this is naturally, I'm going to say, have been an issue for them over time. And because, yet again, we still have another block 50 charge, we don't have any way of distributing this. We don't have any way of actually allowing for multiple units to gain the benefit. As a result, that means that one quick unit is being expected to do everything. This works for the Buster system because the Buster system doesn't rely on refund at all. It just brute force charges, and therefore, as long as it has enough charge to 3-turn, it's fine. With Quick at least still tries to rely somewhat on refund. That means it's somewhat beholden to the number of enemies in the node. Again, you can crit the wave down and then thus forego having to NP that turn, which can alleviate some of the necessity to have charge, but it's also a risk that you just might not get the cards in the right type or turn. So again, that can be a problem for you. So as I look at this, I do think this is a step in the right direction. I think there's a lot about Summer Scotty to like, and I do think she moves the needle forward despite what some people said. I've also seen over time as they have started to try and address this party charge issue, but they're not addressing it in the way that I would have thought they were. You're not getting a new support. Instead, you're getting these sort of hybrid damage dealers that are very support aspected, like Daiko Kuten, where again, you guys can see has party-wide healing, gains crit stars each time, charges own NP gauge, but then also charges the party's NP gauge of 10%. So we're starting to see these units that are, again, sort of designed to not only help themselves, but to also help the rest of the party. You can also see this with Taigong Wang, a very powerful quick unit that has come out here. And Taigong is a little bit like an AoE version of Ozymandias, where, again, he basically has the ability to charge the party's gauge 20%. He also has his own 30%, so he himself becomes a 50% charger. And then he still has divine and demonic power mods on that, as well as a first skill that does at least give party attack, party MP damage, and party quick up of 15% each. The problem with a lot of these is primarily that as I look at these units over time, they're fundamentally selfish. And so, while yes, someone like Taigong Wang, someone like Daiko Kuten can help the party out, this is still not really a substitute for having an actual devoted support that is party oriented rather than single target oriented, rather than buffing one unit. So that's kind of the issue that we have. And I can look at some of the strides they've made over time. We can look at Osaka Behime as another unit where, again, I think this is where they experimented with her, and she's not a bad unit like some people think, but she is very niche in her use. And I think the problem with that is predominantly how they've structured her over time. If you look at her here, they have given her buffs, and you guys can see one of them right here is party-wide crit damage. Well, I think the problem was, even back then, even when they gave her this buff, that we pretty much already knew about Scotty. So crit damage wasn't the biggest need for the quick system. In fact, the quick system has predominantly been very crit happy. So the good part we could say about this, while it is party wide, the problem that I've seen over time is this used to fairly be a unique thing to Osaka Behime. Over time, though, instead they've given it out to Lartoria Ruler, they've given it out to Boudica, and they've given it out to even more beyond that. So having the 50% 3-turn party-wide crit damage is nice, but other units have it, and ultimately it's not the biggest thing that Quick needed addressed. Similarly, as you look here, she does have a targetable charge, but it's only 20%. That is naturally holding her back compared to some of our other more robust supports over time that have 50% charge. And again, while I do really like the ability to remove a target's buffs, this is still more offensive oriented, more challenge oriented, but not so much designed around buffing and helping out the party, not so much designed around, again, trying to keep the party alive. It might, depending on what you remove, but that seems to be more of a, hey, we're just trying to get rid of annoying buffs here regardless of what they are. I think one of the biggest issues that I see where they've kind of messed up here is that, well, yes, she does give party defense of 20% for 3 turns. One, we now have a unit in the game that gives 100% defense, basically. 2, we also see that this is, while nice, not the hugest defense. And then the problem that we have here is we have a max HP heal in effect for 3 turns of 2000 base. This is not a very strong heal, nor is it over time. And you have to get to Asaka Behime's NP to pull this off. The biggest issue that I can see with this is that, again, quick units struggle with their NP gen. So while, yeah, they might be able to get it as long as they can crit and stuff, Asaka Behime doesn't really have the kit to make that easy. She does have naturally good NP gain, but this is sort of something that I've seen over time where if Asaka Behime is supposed to be Quick's healing unit, she fails miserably at that. And it's mostly just due to her capability to actually get to her NP. A lot of this can be resolved by exactly what I talked about before, not having block 50 charges. If they can actually manage to allow a support unit to have party-wide charge, all of a sudden Quick's in a much better place. And so that's one of the things I really think they're going to do. Another unit over here that we have is Zhang Zhu, and he's another one that's come out here that's been really interesting. A lot of people thought he was going to be that low star Quick unit that everyone was hoping for. And while he does have a debuff cleanse and crit absorption and crit damage here, he's also got party-wide Quicken Arts. The problem is it's only 20% because they made it hybrid. The other issue at play here is he's a 50% charger, but only for himself. So what instead he gives to the party is his ability to field change. And while it is really nice and I do like it, I think this is a really solid addition to the roster to have a field changing unit. This isn't the unit that people were hoping for that Quick would get at a low level. It's just not enough. Quick doesn't have good supports outside of Scotty. And that is kind of the issue overall, is we don't see anyone that really helps out with party charge from a support orientation. So again, you have someone like Taigong Wang or Daiko Kuten that do it, but they're not doing it nearly enough, right? And similarly, you don't really have a devoted healer who's quick. Now, I'm going to say this. I do think they're going to bring those into the game at some point. I do think they know this. My only question is, what's kept them so long from putting this into the game? They're functionally just sandbagging Quick as far as we are concerned. Looking at this from the standpoint, it looks to me like we've been patient for years, but they still haven't done much with the system. They've naturally let it lag behind both Buster and Arts. And so I'm hoping this gets addressed very soon. Again, let me know how you think they should fix Quick. To me, it's again going to be party charge and healing capability. They need something that gives sort of defensive staying power. But if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. I'll be sure to read them. I'll see you guys for the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.